What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got another gigantic rules roundup from the lovely folks at the Transformers Trading Card Game HQ that we need to be having a gander at. Now, there really were a redonk amount of questions this week. I have left some of them out because they've been answered before, or they are just answered by the general rule book, but there are still a whole heap we need to go through. So let's get rolling, shall we? So starting off then, if we talk about start of turn effects, let's use the Omnibots as an example. There are 3 Omnibots that are in the San Diego Comic-Con pack, and we've got Private Camshift. At the start of your first turn, you may play an armor onto one of your Omnibots. Private Downshift. At the start of your first turn, you may play a weapon onto one of your Omnibots. And Sergeant Overdrive. At the start of your first turn, you may play a utility onto one of your Omnibots. The real question is, do you draw a card and then do it? Yes, you do. You draw a card and then you resolve all of these at the start of your turn abilities. That is, of course, really important for the Omnibots because you really want to have an armor, a weapon, and a utility in hand. And if you get to draw a card at the beginning of your turn, it's more likely that you will. If you have Energy Pack on an 11-star character and then attach Erratic Energy Grenade, what happens? So Energy Pack, if attached to a character of 11 stars or more, gives you plus 4 health. Erratic Energy Grenade, at the start of your turn, you do 1 damage to the upgraded character. When it is KO'd, you do 2 damage to each enemy. But if you attach Erratic Energy Grenade, that is a utility, so it will remove Energy Pack. Does that mean you get the benefit of that card immediately? Yes. Yes, you do. Nothing happens in between. You attach Erratic Energy Grenade, and then you go, oh, I no longer get plus 4 health. Oh, I've got an Erratic Energy Grenade. Now I get to do 2 damage to each of my opponent's characters. Might I suggest to you that this is something you should try and pull off as regularly as you can? Now, in the Soundwave and Blaster deck, we got Recover Cassette. Recover Cassette is a wonderful card that puts a mini cassette from the battlefield under Blaster or Soundwave, and then you repair 2 damage from one of your characters. So good, it gets put in the KO area. What happens if you put it under Major Soundwave, and then Major Soundwave is KO'd? It stays under Major Soundwave. It's still there. And as a quick side note, yes, you can put any mini cassettes under anybody. So, for instance, you can be going ahead and putting something like Eject under Soundwave, even though it's supposed to be under Blaster, it really doesn't matter. But there is a really important ruling in terms of what happens if they're under the character. Now, we said that with Recover Cassette, they go under the character, and if the character is KO'd, the cassette is still under it. The cassette, think about it as in the deck. So let's say, for argument's sake, Soundwave gets KO'd with Buzzsaw under it. Buzzsaw is still under it when it is KO'd. You can use I Still Function to bring Soundwave back, and Buzzsaw is still under Soundwave, but you cannot use I Still Function to bring Buzzsaw back, because Buzzsaw is in Soundwave's little cassette thing. That's kind of cool. So I Still Function, it really is quite important how this goes about doing so. Essentially, you just always assume the cassette is inside if it is under the character. Cool. I thought that was kind of fun. So, let's have a look at Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend. You play an orange icon battle card off of your flips, but then Infiltrate scraps it. I don't know, let's say it was Supercharge. Do you still count the battle icon when calculating attack, defense, and damage? Yes. Remember, with Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend, you flip the card for attacking, and then after you flip them all, you have the opportunity of playing one, but you still flipped it while attacking. It still counts in terms of your attacking, and even if you try and use it and Infiltrate stops it, you still flipped it while attacking, it still totally counts. Major Shockwave has a really nice bot mode ability, which says while the top card of your deck is a Decepticon card or a secret action, you may play it as though it was in your hand. Can you do that on your first turn going first? No, because you're not allowed to play any actions or upgrades if you go first on your first turn, so you play it as if it was in your hand. If it was in your hand, you wouldn't be able to play it, so you can't play it if it's a top card of your deck. Swap Missions. Swap Missions is a nice little card we've had since the very beginning. Untap one of your tapped characters, then tap one of your untapped characters. If that untapped character has a tap ability, let's say it's a Micromaster, Private Red Heat is one that we've talked about quite a bit. Do you get to use a tap ability? No, you don't. Because Private Red Heat has a tap ability, which is to say during your turn you may tap it and use the ability. It is not any time the character gets tapped, it is if you tap it during your turn to use the tap ability, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is a very different proposition. So what if you've got something like Thundercracker? So Thundercracker, then, this is the one from Wave 1. It's got a lovely little ability there in bot mode that says that when you play an action, you get +1 attack until end of turn. Well, what happens if your attack is an orange attack and your opponent uses Infiltrate, the secret action, reveals it, and you scrap it with no effect? Do you still get the +1 attack? Well, yes, of course you do. And the reason is very, very simple. Let's say, again, it was a supercharge. You still played the supercharge. No, it didn't have any effect, but you played the supercharge, so you get the +1 attack. Now, in terms of stars, there's been a little bit of clarification, though I told you this back in the Blaster vs. Soundwave video. Boom, nailed it. So Blaster and Soundwave can have mini cassettes under them, and you get +1 star for your starting team for each mini cassette you have under them. What happens in terms of the star count? And the answer is, well, exactly what it says on the tin. Blaster and Soundwave are 10-star characters, which means you can put up to 3 of those 5-star cassettes under them, and if you choose to put 3 5-star cassettes under them, you have a 28-star team. You've used 25, 10 for Blaster or Soundwave, 3 for the cassettes. So you've got 3 left to play with. Now, how is this different to Metroplex? And the answer is extremely simple. Metroplex is a 25-star character that says you must start with Slammer, etc. under him. And that is extremely different. The difference, very simply, is Soundwave and Blaster, you can put them under if you feel like it, but they add to the stars because it's optional. Metroplex, you have to put them under, and they do not add to your stars because it's not optional. Right, Cosmos in bot mode, still one of my favourite characters in the game. When you reshuffle your deck while this is attacking, KO the defender if it has 12 stars or fewer. What happens if you've got an anticipation engine? That is an upgrade weapon. When you attack, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an action, you may play it. And that action is a rapid conversion, meaning that you flip Cosmos into alt mode, where it no longer has that skill. And the answer is, if during Cosmos' attack, Anticipation Engine reveals Rapid Conversion as the last card in your deck and you play it, you will immediately shuffle your deck, triggering Cosmos' ability, and then flip it to alt mode. If it's not the last card in your deck, the implication therefore is that, unfortunately, you're not in bot mode when it resolves. Let's go back to Energy Pack for a moment. Energy Pack reads the upgraded character has +4 health. Do you get an immediate +4 to your health, or does it just increase the health total? It has no effect on the amount of damage counters a character has. So if you had a character with 10 health and 4 damage counters, as soon as you put Energy Pack on, you got a character with 14 health and 3 damage counters. Just think of it as literally adding 4 to that number on the health. Think about it like putting a little sticker there, which puts it from a 10 to a 14, etc. Dismantling Claw, Reactive Armor, Personal Targeting Drone. What do they all have in common? They all trigger when they are scrapped from a character. Does that mean that when they are KO'd, they trigger? Yes. Someone asked me this on Facebook the other day, and I quite confidently said, yes, it does trigger when they are KO'd. Very glad it turned out that I was right about this. Essentially, even though the character is KO'd, they are still scrapped. When a character is KO'd, any upgrades on it are scrapped. So even though they're not scrapped using something like Vandalize, they are still scrapped, and therefore, they do trigger. What about Bolster? Now, Bolster is one of them, there are secret actions. And what it does, when one of your characters defends, you may play an armor onto the defender. So your opponent attacks, you reveal secret action Bolster. You then attach multi-mission gear to a specialist, which allows you to play an extra action. You then use all-out attack. World implodes, right? The answer is, well, the world might implode, but you're not, unfortunately, able to attack. You are not allowed to attack on your character's turn. Essentially, all-out attack lets all of your characters attack, but since none of your characters can attack, it essentially does nothing. It says if any of them could attack, they all could, but they can't, so they don't. And incidentally, the same rules apply even in the event of a galactic implosion and resulting gravitational chaos. Cool. When you equip Erratic Energy Grenade, do you subtract 1 health right away? No. And again, this is one that can be answered by reading the card quite carefully. Erratic Energy Grenade at the start of your turn. Do 1 damage to the upgraded character. Well, when you attach it, it is not the start of your turn. You have already started your turn, so you do not do the 1 damage. There we go. So what about METROPLEX then? METROPLEX has some of these characters we talked about earlier that start under him, one of which is 6-Gun. When METROPLEX attacks, if 6-Gun is in ult mode, you do 1 damage to the defender. What happens if that KOs the defender? Especially if METROPLEX is in bot mode, do you still get to flip your cards for the turn? Because remember, if you flip your cards for the turn and you flip 2 white, 2 orange, 2 blue, you tap each enemy and do 1 damage to each enemy. Even if there's no one to attack, you really want to flip the cards. The answer is no. You don't flip battle cards, because when you go to flip battle cards, there is no defender, so you don't flip. That could be a really bad thing, ladies and gentlemen, because it means that you potentially miss out on getting to use that ability, which could KO a whole bunch more characters. RANSACK Insecticon Commando's got a lovely ability in ult mode. When you flip to this mode, move 2 damage counters from another character to this one. Yes! That could be from your opponent's characters. You would be healing your opponent's characters, so potentially silly, but you're allowed to, is the point. LV GAMMA-DISRUPTOR Launcher allows you to put 2 into a weapon slot, only for Shockwave. If you put a 3rd one on, does that scrap just one of them, or both the original? Just one. Even though 2 can fit in the slot, they are separate upgrades, so when you put a 3rd one on, you can still fit 2 in the slot, but there are now 3, so you have to scrap the original one. When you put it onto Shockwave, your opponent scraps a card from their hand, so you may well want to put a 3rd on there. We've talked about this before, but let's say it one more time. Sergeant Cog is a weaponizer, not a battle master, and it does function in the same way as a battle master. It says that in the FAQ, but it is not a battle master, so that means that if you play quartermaster, you do not get to recover him from the KO area. Gutted. He's not a battle master. I still put him on my list when I was ranking them because he's functionally the same, but I said in that video super clearly, say it with me again, ladies and gentlemen, not a battle master. Now here's a really interesting one. Blaster versus Soundwave. Let's say you've got Buzzsaw in the KO area. You play Brainstorm to allow you to play 2 actions during your turn. You play I Still Function to bring Buzzsaw back with a single health, But then you play Recover Cassette to put Buzzsaw underneath Soundwave. At the end of your turn, does I Still Function KO him? No. And the reason is, at the end of your turn, I Still Function looks at the battlefield and KOs a character that was recovered. He's not on the battlefield, he's under Soundwave. Go back to what we said earlier in this video. When a character is under Soundwave, he is essentially in Soundwave's cassette compartment. I Still Function cannot get him there. That is a very, very fun ruling indeed, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty cool. Blaster, you flip to bot mode, you deploy a mini cassette. Do you have to play the top card of your deck? Yes. Because Blaster reads, play the top card of your deck. If it said you may play the top card of your deck, then cool. But it doesn't. It says play the top card of your deck. Let's go back to the Omnibots quickly, because there's a really fun clarification here for Private Camshaft. So Private Camshaft then, he's got this ability. At the start of your first turn, you may play an armor onto one of your Omnibots. Okay. But he's a specialist. So what happens if you play multi-mission gear onto him as your armor that you're playing at the start of your turn? Well, multi-mission gear, when you attach it, allows you to play an action. What if the action you choose is Treasure Hunt, scrap the top 4 cards of your deck, put all upgrade scrap this way into your hand? Are you then able to use those upgrades to attach with the other Omnibots, Private Downshift if you find a weapon, and Sergeant Overdrive if you find a utility? And the answer is yes. Because essentially you've got the 3 Omnibot abilities and you get to resolve them in the order of your choosing. You are resolving Treasure Hunt while you are resolving Private Camshaft's ability, and you've got to finish resolving Camshaft's ability before you can move on to the other 2. How cool is that? The answer is very, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Starscream in bot mode has a really nice skill that says when an upgrade is scrapped from an enemy, do 1 damage to an enemy. So if you play Vandalize and scrap more than 1 upgrade, you get to do more than 1 damage. You do in fact do 1 damage per upgrade. Cool. And you're always doing a damage to the character from which the upgrade was scrapped. Speaking of which, if anyone needs a Captain Starscream, somehow I ended up with 3 of them, even though it's a rare, so if anyone wants to trade it or is interested in it, just give me a shout, would ya? Because I need to offload them, preferably in exchange for other Transformers cards. Don't know why I've got so many. I opened 2 boxes and a bunch of packs. In each box I got a Starscream. In the bunch of packs, I got a Starscream. Bit weird. Now let's have a look at a really interesting ruling for Major Soundwave that could be rather important. So Major Soundwave then, when you attack, you untap each of your Spy Patrols. Buzzsaw and Ravage are the 2 we have right now. So what happens if all of your opponent's characters are tapped? So you then are attacking with Major Soundwave, you untap Buzzsaw and Ravage, but then your opponent has no untapped characters. And if they have no untapped characters, you just keep attacking until you're at untapped characters. Everyone untaps, and it's your opponent's turn. Well, you can't take an extra turn here because your opponent has no untapped characters. They need to have an untapped character, so they have a turn, you have a turn, and so on. So you can attack with Ravage and Buzzsaw, but can you use their tap abilities? No. Attacking ends your turn. You've got to use a tap ability before you attack. So you can attack with Ravage and Buzzsaw, but you are out of time to tap. You have to have already have used their tapping. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. What happens if you attack with Anticipation Engine, which lets you reveal the top card of your deck, play it if it's an action, and that action is Supercharge, giving you Bold Free. Do you still get the Bold Free and flip the free extra cards? Yes, you do. The rule for Bold and Tough is really simple. Anything that happens before you start flipping can add. Anything that happens after you start flipping doesn't. So playing Supercharged Anticipation Engine is fine because you haven't started flipping, but if you get a Supercharged with Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend, it doesn't give you bold free because you've already flipped your actions. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, let's say you're playing all Autobots, including a Captain Wheeljack in bot mode. Well, Captain Wheeljack in bot mode has a lovely skill. When you play your third action during your turn, draw a card. Cool. Well, what happens if you play Brainstorm, so you can play more actions, and then you play Confidence? Do you play your second action for Brainstorm now, or do you resolve Confidence first, playing an action, and then play your second one for Brainstorm? And when does Captain Wheeljack's when you play your third action ability trigger? In terms of the Confidence, you've got to resolve it. Essentially, you play Brainstorm, oh, I'm resolving Brainstorm, play Confidence. You've got to finish doing Confidence before you can finish doing Brainstorm, because you're doing Confidence as part of Brainstorm. Then you play the second action, which could be another Confidence, I suppose. Once you've finished resolving Brainstorm, that is, you've played your two actions and anything else that happens as a result of those actions, any abilities triggered while Brainstorm was resolving, in this case Captain Wheeljack, happen in the order of your choosing. Remember, when things happen simultaneously, you get to choose the order in which they happen. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I made that as quick as I possibly could, but there were so many rulings this week we had to run through them. Hopefully they all made sense. As always, if there are any follow-up questions you've got, chuck them down in the comment section and myself or someone else will get to them. And if we can't, well, that's why you're allowed to send these ruling queries to Transformers. Go nuts in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen, but please remember to be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games, like Transformers and a whole bunch of others. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.